A drum kit is made up of a kick drum, a snare drum, hi-hats, toms, and cymbals. In a typical setup, we'd place a mic on the kick drum, one or maybe even two on the snare, above and occasionally below if you want to have the buzz of the snares brought into the mix as well. Then one for the hi-hat, then one for each tom, and finally a pair for the overhead cymbals as well. Now before we look at the placement, let's see the kind of the usual suspects in terms of mic selection for each drum. On the kick drum, we need to reproduce low frequencies, and it's also a pretty loud environment, so a dynamic microphone usually fits the bill with a rare exception. A short list of kick drum mics would then be the Shure Beta 52, Shure Beta 91, AKG D112, Audix D6, and the EV or Electro Voice RE20 or PL20. For the snare drum, some choices are Shure SM57, Shure Beta 56A, Audix i5. For the hi-hat, probably the Audix SCX1HC, Neumann KM185, Shure SM81. For the toms, Audix D2, Shure Beta 98A, Shure Beta 56A, or the timeless Sennheiser 421. And for overheads, probably the Shure SM81, Sennheiser E614, the Audix ADX51. Another great way to go, which is much simpler than going an a la carte route, is to purchase a kit of mics, especially for drums. Kits are available from Samson, Shure, and Audix in order of kind of good, better, and best. Now that we have our selection of mics all sorted out, we can start positioning these guys. And while ironclad rules are few and everything is open for experimentation, a general way of miking drums has kind of emerged over the years. Let's start out with kick drums. Most drummers cut out a hole in the front head and place some dampening material inside the shell to prevent ringing and give the kick kind of a nice thud to it. Place the kick drum mic inside the shell pointing towards the beater. In terms of snare drums, place your mic right at the edge pointing down at the head at about 2 inches from the edge. Make sure that the mic is out of the way, enough so that the drummer doesn't accidentally hit it from time to time. You can get away with just a single mic on the top of the snare, but also another one underneath it pointing up at the snares is a great way to capture the snap and buzz of those snares. Listen to just the top, then just the bottom, and now a blend between the two. The hi-hat mic should be placed about 2 or 3 inches from the hi-hats, angled in a way to prevent spill from other instruments, most notably the snare drum. The toms are mic'd in basically the same way as the snares, pointing down about 2 inches from the rim. You can move inwards towards the center of the head for a boomier sound. And finally, overheads are placed, they're placed overhead. And because the ride and the bell of the ride are quieter than the crash cymbal, then I would normally angle the right overhead in a little just to favor that ride. So with the entire kit being mic'd up, we just have everything we need to get a good sound of it. I would then play around and mess with EQ, compression, and gates. If possible, just kind of punch up that sound. But the basics that we have with those mics and those positions should work with this well. I'll show you how to actually mix drums and use all the effects and techniques in the mixing section later on.